Prime Big Deal Days is here.
Woohoo!
Which can lead to involuntary deal squeals, like the classic deal on a new blender squeal.
Yeah!
Save big this Prime Big Deal Days, on now.
5 weeks into the season, just 2 teams remain undefeated with perfect 5-0 records. They are the Kansas City Chiefs and Minnesota Vikings. We've had our first head coaching casualty of the new campaign. The New York Jets parting ways with Robert Saleh following the Jets' defeat in London last weekend. The Niners blew a double-digit lead again and fall to 2-3 on the season. The Seahawks fell at home to the New York Giants. The Ravens took down the Bengals in an overtime thriller. And what about Monday Night Football? That big boy interception, a 30-yard return by Kalen Sanders after he picked off Chiefs star quarterback Patrick Mahomes in the end zone. It was all to no avail for the New Orleans Saints, though, as they went down at Arrowhead Stadium. Feeling breathless? So am I. No time to rest. Pick yourselves up, dust yourselves down, as we turn the page and look ahead to Week 6 in the NFL.
Graves on Gridiron with Richard Graves.
Hello, welcome along to the show. This is Graves on Gridiron. I am your host, Richard Graves, and we will kick off this week's show with that sensational breaking news as we get ready for Week 6 at the time of recording. That news, of course, being that the New York Jets have fired head coach Robert Saleh following the narrow defeat in London last Sunday to the Minnesota Vikings. He leaves having been in charge of the Jets for just over 3 seasons with a 20-36 record, including a 2-3 start to this 2024 campaign. He becomes the latest in a list of head coaches that have lost their jobs following defeats in games in London. We are told that the interim head coach to replace Robert Saleh and will be in charge for Monday Night Football against the Buffalo Bills this weekend is defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich. That is a game that we are going to be previewing here on Graves on Gridiron a little bit later in the show. Just need to get my head quite around the ramifications of that head coaching change just yet. We'll look ahead to that a little bit later on. We are going to start, though, back in the UK, back in London for the second of 3 games being played back to back here in London this season. It's the second game to be played at Tottenham Hotspur's stadium, and it is the first of 2 successive games that the Jacksonville Jaguars will be playing here in the UK. You'll remember they did it last year and left the UK a perfect 2-0 from games at Tottenham and then at Wembley, or Wembley and Tottenham as it was last season. It's the other way around this time around, but they kick off against the Chicago Bears. Now, the Bears are on a run at the moment. They have a 3-2 record on the season. Compare that to the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are 1-4. It's been a tough old time for the Jags. They finally snapped a losing streak of 9 straight games last weekend against their AFC South rival Indianapolis Colts, an injury-ravaged Indianapolis Colts, it might be said. And while they may have got that monkey off their back, there were still some alarming moments against Indianapolis last weekend. Not least the way they allowed veteran QB Joe Flacco to rally Indy late in the game. He almost brought them all the way back, but didn't quite do it as the Jags hung on to claim their first win of the season. And that, it has to be said, has been an issue for Jacksonville all season. Only once in their 5 games so far have they kept opponents to fewer than 20 points. That was the Cleveland Browns, but the Browns still managed to get out of Jacksonville with a victory back in week 2. On average, they're giving up 28.6 points per game. That puts them in 30th for scoring defense in the NFL. Only 2 teams are shipping more points on average per game than the Jacksonville Jaguars this season. Contrast that with the Chicago Bears. Defensively, one of the best in the league through the first 5 weeks of the season. They're a top 5 unit, giving up just 17 points per game. They're top 4 when it comes to takeaways. They rank 7th overall in defense. And, whisper this just quietly right now, there is a growing feeling in Chicago that rookie QB Caleb Williams might just be the face of the franchise they've been looking for all these years. By far, they turned in their most impressive performance last time out in handling the lowly Panthers. They beat them 36-10 in Chicago. In fact, they've only failed to reach 21 points themselves in a game. once this season. They're averaging 22.6 per game. This is an impressive Chicago Bears side right now. And when you look at the skill positions, Chicago do have playmakers at every spot. They also have a defense who gets them the ball back, puts them in good positions. Frankly, it's inconceivable, given the way the Jacksonville Jaguars have played defensively so far this season, that the Bears don't make it to their season average of 21 points. Well, the line on this game says the Bears make it to 21.5 points. Over or under? I'm taking the over. The Bears are hot net right now. They're feeling it. They're winning games. They have a winning record heading over to the UK. The Jags might have got that first win of the season last weekend, but it wasn't convincing. This might well be a high-scoring game all round, in fact. But take the Bears to score more than 21.5 points in London on Sunday. Okay, next up, we have an NFC South battle. It's the Falcons and the Panthers. It won't come as any surprise to anybody that the Carolina Panthers start this game as 6-point underdogs. And it is a worrying matchup for Carolina, facing a divisional rival who themselves have had 10 days to prepare for this game, because let's not forget the last time they played was in that Thursday night football thriller when they took down the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in dramatic fashion in overtime. The Panthers themselves have just got beat by the Chicago Bears quite handily last weekend. The feelings in the two locker rooms could hardly be more different heading into this game. And yes, I'll accept veteran QB Andy Dalton came in, was named a starter a couple of weeks ago, and appeared to give the Panthers a lift. Remember, they got that good win out there in the desert, beating the Las Vegas Raiders. I've got to tell you that I think that's the outlier. I think this is still a poor Carolina Panthers outfit on both sides of the ball. Look, they are dead last in points allowed this season. They're shipping, on average, 33 points per game. They're 29th in points scored. They're only scoring 16.5 points per game on average. They rank in the bottom 6 when it comes to giving the ball away. They're one brief bright spot, if you like, over the last 2 games. Running back Chuba Hubbard. He seems to have shown an improvement in form and been effective. But the Panthers are in the bottom 10 in every other major offensive category. And now they have to face an Atlanta team whose quarterback, Kirk Cousins, has just thrown for over 500 yards in a game. In Drake London, Darnell Mooney, Kyle Pitts. They have a fearsome trio of receivers. That's combined with a 2-headed monster they've got in the backfield. Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier. Look, the Falcons' offense ranks 10th overall. They're 6th in the National Football League when it comes to running the football. And I've just mentioned their quarterback threw for over 500 yards against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 10 days ago. Look, they come into this clash having beaten divisional rivals back-to-back. Remember, they took care late on at home of the New Orleans Saints in the game before the Bucs game. If Atlanta get an early lead in this one, it's over. It's difficult to see how Carolina even keeps it close. I look at that line with the Panthers being 6-point underdogs. I think that the Falcons win by 6 and then some. Take the Atlanta Falcons to cover this spread and win by at least 6 points. Okay, so that's 2 games in the books. We've got one to come, and it is the hot topic of the week following the announcement that Robert Saleh has been fired. That's right, we're looking ahead to Monday Night Football. The Bills and Jets is coming next.
Graves on Gridiron.
Welcome back to Graves on Gridiron. We've already picked 2 games from the Week 6 schedule. We started in London with the Jaguars and Bears, then went to an NFC South battle, the Falcons and Panthers. We are finishing on Monday Night Football, an AFC East encounter, the Buffalo Bills against the New York Jets. Look, before the news that the New York Jets had parted ways with head coach Robert Saleh, the Jets heading into this game were listed as 2.5-point underdogs. Well, at the time of recording, that's still the line. It may well change because unrest, uncertainty is not something that the odds makers like, certainly when they're setting the lines. Now you look at the Buffalo Bills, who themselves have had back-to-back defeats, and suddenly they look like the more stable option, if you like. It's worth keeping an eye on going into this. But what I do know is this is a huge AFC East clash between 2 teams who badly need a win. It's 2 teams coming off the back of back-to-back defeats. two teams who have a lot of questions swirling around them. And you do sense the result, whichever way it goes on Monday Night Football, might prove to be pivotal in the respective seasons for each of these two sides. It's got to be said there's probably a few more questions swirling around the New York Jets right now, given the decision that's been made at the start of the week with their new interim head coach, defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich, being put in charge coming into this game. Look, we all know the narrative around the Jets. The quarterback and the receivers aren't on the same page. That's clearly apparent from what we've seen through the first 5 games. I don't think there was any question that there was friction between Aaron Rodgers, the quarterback, and Robert Saleh before he was allowed to go. And frankly, ownership has decided to stack the wagons behind the quarterback in making that decision to change at the head coaching position. The Buffalo Bills, well, they shot out of the blocks. It was all plain sailing for them through the first 3 weeks. They were perfect 3-0. But they were comfortably beaten in Baltimore 2 weeks ago. And you have to say they were second best for much of the game last weekend in Houston. However, it was the seemingly, I have to say, senseless play calling that we saw from Sean McDermott, their head coach, to throw the ball on 3 successive attempts from under the shadow of their own posts, which then, of course, allowed Houston to get the ball back. It gave them the opportunity to kick a game-winning field goal as time expired. Fairburn did that, and suddenly the Bills are coming into this game on the back of successive defeats. Just as troubling as that defeat has to be Josh Allen's stats in the game, the quarterback for the Buffalo Bills. It is apparent to me that the Bills have decided they're throwing all their eggs into the Josh Allen basket this season. Remember, they let Stephon Diggs go on a trade to the Houston Texans, elected to stick with the receivers they had in-house. They never brought in a new receiver to replace him. And seemingly, they've decided they will live and die with their quarterback's performance game to game. Well, against Houston, he only completed 9 of 30 passing attempts for 131 yards and a touchdown. I've got to tell you, that's not going to win you too many games. The bottom line appears to be if Buffalo's defense can't get turnovers to set up their offense in good field position, then the Bills are going to struggle this year, folks. It might not be a popular narrative, but we spoke about this with Charles Dagnall on last week's show. Field position has been crucial in the 3 wins that the Bills have had this season, and they haven't had it, frankly, in the last 2 games, and consequently, they've lost both. It is a lot to ask Josh Allen to put this entire offense on his shoulders when you're coming up against a good defense. And once again, that is what you've got this week against the New York Jets, because for all of their shortcomings, defense hasn't really been a problem for Gangrene. It's their offense which has. Yet last weekend in London, Aaron Rodgers still nearly found a way to bring the Jets back from an early 17-0 hole. And that's despite throwing 3 interceptions in the game. In the end. For the second straight week, the Jets found themselves in a scoring position to win the game. And for the second straight week, they found a way to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. Remember, Greg Zuerlein against the Denver Broncos had a field goal opportunity to win the game, missed it wide right. The Broncos walk out of there with a win. Last weekend, the Jets are moving downfield. The ball's in Aaron Rodgers' hand. He throws an interception inside the Vikings' own 10-yard line. Stephon Gilmore takes the ball away. That is game over. The Vikings remain perfect and undefeated. The Jets slip to 2-3. Of course, a lot of attention was directed at Aaron Rodgers for those 3 interceptions in the game. I'm still willing to believe what he said, that is an anomaly for him. You don't see Aaron Rodgers turn the ball over too often, much less throw 3 interceptions in the same game. But I'll say this much. The time is now for Aaron Rodgers. You were brought in here for one reason only, to make this New York Jets offense work, make the New York Jets a Super Bowl contender. A 2-3 record through the first 5 weeks of the season doesn't suggest you're a Super Bowl contender. There is still time to turn the ship around, though, because you look at the AFC East table right now. Miami Dolphins in disarray. The Buffalo Bills at 3-2. You're 2-3. The Miami Dolphins, As I said, the New England Patriots also in disarray alongside the Miami Dolphins. It's all still out there in front of you. But it starts this weekend because the Buffalo Bills lead your division right now. You have to win this game. You know, the head coach has gone. Whatever your issues were with him, Aaron Rodgers, this is now your team, your offense. You have to lead it. The bottom line is this. It's easier to fix issues when you know you've got pieces on your team to do it. And whichever way you dress it up, the New York Jets on offense have those pieces. Be it Breece Hall in the backfield. Be it Mike Williams, Garrett Wilson, Tyler Conklin at tight end. You know, you've got Alan Lazard, who was the man that Aaron Rodgers wanted brought in as wide receiver. The pieces are there. Now, I ask the question, do the Buffalo Bills have those pieces? Well, I'd suggest to you when you look at the wide receiving corps, Stephon Diggs is a big name, a big-time player who made big-time plays in big-time games. I, as yet, don't see anybody in that receiving corps doing that for the Buffalo Bills. Dalton Kincaid was your star first-round pick at tight end last year. Second-year pro now. He's still to find his feet in this offense. You need those type of players to start stepping up if you are going to be the real deal. The last 2 weeks say to me, there might be some issues here. I think when you say, do the Bills have the pieces to fix what's wrong? The answer to that question is a little bit more vague. It's open to debate. And for that reason, even taking into account the change at head coach for the New York Jets, I look at this line and say the Jets are 2.5-point underdogs at home, Monday Night Football, go time, must-win game for the Jets. I took them last week. They didn't quite make it. I'm doubling down and taking them again. Take the New York Jets at plus 2.5 to turn the ship around, keep their season alive, and deliver the victory for Graves on Gridiron. Okay, let's recap the 3 games that we're looking at for Week 6 in the NFL. We start at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, 2:30 p.m. local kickoff time on Sunday. The Jags and the Bears take the Chicago Bears to score 22 points or more in that game. Then we're back in the States. NFC South battle in Carolina as the Panthers host the Falcons. Atlanta 6-point favorites going into this game. Take them to cover at -6. And then, despite the turmoil going on with gangrene in New Jersey with the Jets, it's the Jets against the Bills to round off Week 6. Monday Night Football. Must-win game for the Jets. They might be 2.5-point underdogs, but here on the show, we're taking them to cover at plus 2.5. As I always say at this time, folks, it's about having fun. Bear that in mind, first and foremost, to accompany your enjoyment of the games on Sunday and Monday this week. If you want to read about the 3 games we've spoken about on this week's show, then go to my website, rdgmedia.uk. Click on the Talking Sport tab. There you'll see NFL Week 6, Overcoming the Odds, 3 games to watch. Click on that and you can read about all 3 games. Equally, hit me up on any of our social media channels. Graves on Gridiron on Facebook, RDG Media UK on Instagram, at Richard Graves1 on X, and of course you can catch up on previous shows and interviews as well if you like on our YouTube channel, Richard Graves TV. As always, it's a blast. Week 5 had it all. Can Week 6 live up to that? We're about to find out. Enjoy it, everyone. So long, everybody.
Subscribe to Graves on Gridiron wherever you listen to podcasts.
And keep up to date with the latest on Twitter. Search for Richard Graves 1.
That's Richard Graves, the number 1.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.